Welcome to Fathers of the Grind, episode 71. In this episode, we talk about NBA playgrounds. We talk about a bunch of old games as we dig into the Hall of Fame nominees and inductees for this year's class and our thoughts on those, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff. So buckle up. Here we go.
Who is your daddy? I am your father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?
Let me resize this window so I don't have to see you too closely.
Okay, that's rude. Sound like my wife. Let's resize this. Let's resize this house so I'm not too close to you.
That's too bad. So how you liking the new place, the new rental?
It's nice. Got some more stuff in, and this morning I went and pretty much cleaned out my storage. I have like maybe 5 or 6 things left to do. So
Nice.
my dad will probably do it while I'm at work because it's nothing big. Well, actually, there is one love seat that he won't be able to do, but all the other stuff he'll probably just go over there since he's retired and gets bored and just likes to stay busy. He'll probably go over there and finish cleaning it out. So we're almost done.
But I mean, as far as like your basic, the bedrooms are all set up.
The only thing
living rooms,
we're
all
not
that.
set up with is our bed, and that's because we're missing a piece. So it's been a little frustrating. I mean, we've got the bed on the floor. We just don't have it like put together.
Gotcha. That's cool. Yeah, we're getting ready to do that process ourselves. Our garage is full of stuff. So when moving to a new place, of course, the layout's way different. There's a little more floor space. There's a lot more floor space. And so we've got a different set of furniture we need. So we needed to get a couple of new couches. Actually, one new couch, like a sectional, because the couches that we have are 11 years old. And so we first got them. It was just the two of us. They were fine. They were in great shape. And then we had 5 kids, and they have since had everything from iced tea and orange juice to coffee, and I'm pretty sure kids pee and puke. Yeah, we've had all kinds of nasty stuff on these couches, and we've cleaned them, but it's time. It's time.
Yeah.
So we've got couches in the garage. We've got a couple pieces of furniture. My wife found a washer and dryer because we have to get those for the new place, and so a table and chairs. Yeah, we got a whole bunch of stuff that's just filled. The garage is full right now. It's totally jam-packed full, and so it feels like we're moving, but we still have 2 weeks.
That's what we did. Like about a month and a half before we were moving in, we started. My wife was really shopping. Like she was using Facebook, but she was also using some other app for like local people selling stuff.
Yep.
So we bought so much stuff, much stuff. So
yeah. There was one where the guy I was going to buy a washer, and the dude gave my wife Katie. He gave her the wrong address. He like switched the numbers around. And so I went and I was knocking on this door. No one answered. I'm waiting. I'm texting Katie, and she's trying to send the guy a message on the marketplace, the Facebook marketplace, where she saw the listing. And we couldn't get anything. So that was really annoying. And then he ended up saying, I'll take $20 off. And so I went back the next night to get it, got the right address. And it's as if he doesn't remember the conversation at all. He's like, you're buying this and this, right? No, just the washer. Well, we said this amount, right? No, you said $20 off. I don't remember that. Like, I think this dude was on something. So,
well, the best story I have is Megan sent me to like Hicktown to buy like a bed and some other stuff, just a bunch of stuff, and it was a foreign lady who doesn't speak any English, and so she was like following us around and just like and she was real weird. I'm like, oh my god, I want to kill my wife right now. Like, why do I get sent to do this bull crap? And my brother's there with me because he's helping me lift the heavy stuff, and he's like, what the heck is this? And she's no. I'm like, oh my god, go away, lady.
Usually my experiences on things like Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, they've been okay. But every once in a while, it's like this guy where he seems real confused. He doesn't remember who he talked to and who he agreed he was selling it to. And I get there we had our van. I removed the back seat so I had space for it, and I was just assuming he would help me load it. And he kind of looks at me. He's like, "Well, do you have a dolly?" I was like, "What? No, let's just lift this thing up here. What are you talking about, a dolly? We're not walking it down the sidewalk." What are you talking about? So anyway,
is
it was one
it
of
your
those. It was
creeper
one of those
white van?
experiences.
Do you offer candy?
It is the creeper white van. Yeah, it is. But it has windows. They're tinted, which I guess makes it creepy. But it has windows.
I gotta share this because I thought this was funny. So my daughter, she gets real bad anxiety. Like she freaks out about stuff. Like when she was real little, she freaked out about like elevators. She refused to go on them, and she hates nighttime, all that stuff. So that's why she's not out here right now. But a lot of times when we record, even though she's got her own room, everything like that, she'll still come out here and be near me because she just freaks out. Well, anyways, one of her things that she gets real freaked out about is like white vans. She thinks any white van she sees, she thinks they're creepers who are gonna take her and blah blah blah. So like Eli and Ian and I were driving. We were for some reason talking about Emily's first car, and Ian's like all excited. He's like, "I got it, Dad. We'll buy her a white van." I was like, "Yes, that'd be perfect. That's gonna be our first car. We're gonna buy like an old rusted white van for my daughter." So.
Yeah, like a cargo van, not even like a family looking van.
Yeah,
like a passenger van,
exactly.
but like a cargo van with no windows.
Yep. And I told her that, and she was like, "I don't want it." I was like, "But then you can't ever drive." "I don't know. I'm not gonna take it." I'm like, "Well, then that's the only car I'm gonna buy." So
You could do what I've seen someone spray paint on the side of those vans. Just say "free candy," just in spray paint, and won't catch anybody's attention. Our van is not creepy. It's a passenger van. It actually looks like an airport shuttle bus. That's kind of what it looks like.
Well, I mean, technically you are.
Yeah, no,
you are carrying like 180 passengers every time.
We are carrying 180 passengers at least. That's true. And we have those superhero decals on the back. Like the cheesy family layout. I kind of like it, to be honest with you. It's on both our car and our van, and it's like Iron Man, Wolverine. I forget who else. The kids all claimed who they were. Spider-Man. Yeah. So we got that. So that way any kidnappers can have an idea of how many kids they have to choose from.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, we're just laying out the menu for them.
Here's 5 fresh ones.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right, well, the reason why we're kind of kicking things off with just what's going on with family and that kind of stuff is I don't have a lot of new games I've been playing. We talked last week, and we just chatted before the show real quick about we're going to jump into Prey, and I had real hopes of wrapping up things like Mad Max and maybe trying a little Mass Effect finally so I could tell you to get off my back. But this has just been one of those weeks where I haven't set aside a ton of time to game because other things are just more important. So I haven't done a ton of gaming this week. When I do, it's usually like a couple Mario Kart races here and there.
Yeah.
And I've wrapped up with Mad Max. Dude, the last 2 or 3 nights, my wife's gone to bed, and I stay to play a little bit of gaming. And within about 10 or 15 minutes, I find my head just kind of like starting to bob, and I'm like barely staying awake. I'm just getting really tired these evenings. I think just all the stuff with the buying the house and all the details that involves with phone calls and filling out paperwork, something about it is just draining.
Yeah.
And so every night I'm just worn out. So.
But you did
not
finish.
nearly.
Did you finish Mad Max? Is that what you said?
No.
Oh, I
not
thought
yet.
You said you wrapped it up.
I haven't. I wanted to.
Oh, okay.
I have almost maxed out most of the upgrades, and I just this weekend started going back through some of the story stuff again. I want to power through the story stuff. I'm a little overpowered at the moment, but yeah, I hope to get through all that. But it's funny to talk about being tired. My wife just finished doing the Spartan race today.
Mm-hmm.
How long was this one? 9.7 miles.
Sounds fun.
27 obstacles. It's too long. That's too many obstacles.
Don't pass. Hard pass.
She's sunburned. She's all bruised up. She's got this nasty bruise right on the front of her shin, and she's feeling pretty worn out tonight. And so when I talk about being tired, it's kind of funny, but that's actually tired. So anyway, there you are.
You can't see it.
Yeah, you're sunburned. That's true. That's true. But yeah, she's limping around the house. Yeah, you're tougher than I am. That's for sure. I stayed home with all 5 kids, and I'm like, I can do this, solo dad, and she's out there like training to be a Marine. So anyway, so that's what she did today. But yeah, man, it's just been one of those weeks, And I have played a few rounds of Mario Kart. I've got almost all the 150cc things 3-starred. I think I've got 2 or 3 left. I'm at the point now where I'll get first place in all the races, and on the last one I'll get hit with a shell and finish like in 4th or something.
Yeah.
And then I get either 1 or 2 stars, and it's really annoying. There's no trophies on the Switch, but for some reason I want to be able to look at that list and see all 3 stars. I don't know why. I just want to see all 3 stars and all the CCs. But yeah, I'm a nerd. Yeah. So I haven't been playing much new. That's pretty much the recap. Little Mario Kart here and there, some Mad Max here and there. What about you?
Kind of the same thing, not playing anything new. I had planned to play Prey, and it wasn't even like, oh, I need to beat Zelda or Witcher before I play Prey. It was more just, I'll just play it for a little bit just so I can talk about it. And I did game, but I didn't game a lot. Like, usually I come home from work, we do soccer or whatever, and then I game. But most of this week I didn't do that. I've been kind of in one of those, even when I would boot The Witcher on, I was like, I'm not in the mood to play this right now. Even though I was, really into it last week, and I'm still enjoying it. It's not like I'm over it. I'm just not in the mood for a big game right now during the week. I'm real tired. So I've just been playing a little bit of Rocket League, trying to get in a rhythm of that again. Gosh, I mean, I'm not terrible, but I can tell I'm not even close to where
rusty.
I was.
I'm with you, man. That game, when you jump back into Rocket League after not playing for a while, you forget how good people are at that game, and you quickly get dominated, and you have to kind of get back in the swing of things.
Well, and I've talked about this before. Like, I'm a really good team player. I'm not gonna be like, if compared, like, using NBA as an example. In the NBA, if I was a player, I would not be your James Harden or your Russell Westbrook. I'm not going to take over a game and score 30 or 40 points. But what I'll do is I'll be your setup guy. I'll be your John Stockton. I'll do all the little things.
Yeah.
And obviously I can score. You've played with me before. And my wife's played with me before. No, I'm just kidding. But anyways, so I can score. But I'm more of a team player. So the reason I bring this up is they reset everything. I think this is for season 3.
They did.
It's so infuriating because they start you by like playing you with randoms, but they don't know what level you're at, so they kind of mix it, and you get stuck with all these crap players. And I'm being legit when I say this. I'm not sitting here blaming people when I screw up. I know when I screw up. I'm playing with people that don't even know how to rotate. Yep. They follow you.
Yep.
And I'm like, how am I supposed to win a game when I've got my teammate following me, or they don't rotate back, or they don't do anything they're supposed to do? So it's very frustrating. So you keep losing.
Yep.
And Rocket League still puts a lot of weight on winning or losing.
It does for your ranks.
I had one game where I had like 700 points. I had like 3 goals or whatever, and I lost and I moved down a division. I was like, why?
Yeah.
I played my heart out.
Yeah.
I can't help it my team lost.
I think it's weighted a little bit, but you're right. I think win and loss is the bottom line. But I do think they weight it a little bit. You won't drop
like
as far.
80-20. It's like 80% if you win, 20% if you lose, and then you played well or something like that. They don't put a lot of weight on it. So,
by the way, I'll add to that. The only thing more annoying than having those kind of teammates who don't know how to do that stuff is those who aren't doing it well or don't know how to, and they're calling you out nonstop when your team's not doing well. And they're sitting there yelling at you like you did something wrong. You're like, no, I'm rotating like you're supposed to. Like they're like, you're supposed to be there. Take the shot. I'm like, no, I'm rotating back to defend because you weren't there. Anyway, it's frustrating. I'm with you.
Yeah, because you can't verbalize it. And I had one guy, and based off the stats, he was the better player. He scored three goals, and I hadn't even scored yet. And we were losing, and all of his goals, and again, not exaggerating, they whiffed, and he tapped it in. Like, he didn't do anything. And he started talking trash and all this stuff, blaming me. But all their goals, and again, not exaggerating, they scored like 5 or 6 goals. 4 or 5 of them, he just let by him. Like, he missed, he whiffed, and I'm like, so you're looking at the points, and you think you're the man, but you're the reason we're losing as well. Like, you can't explain.
Derek's
So anyways,
talking
it's
about
been
this guy like
frustrating.
he's a stranger, but that was actually me. That was Derek and I playing together. He's calling me out right now.
So anyways, getting back into Rocket League,
Yeah.
not that much fun.
Hey, have you
Trying to
played
build
Drop
yourself
Shot,
back
that
up.
new mode they put out, I don't know, like a month ago?
Yeah, I played that a few weeks ago. I really liked it. I
Yeah,
thought
it's
it was
really
cool.
fun. Yeah, I like it a lot. It's for those of you who haven't played it, it's basically a big arena with no goals, but there's two halves, so it's kind of I think it's a hexagon, or an octagon.
Yeah, no, it might be a circle.
I feel like the
don't
walls
know.
had
I
like
can't
had like corners to them, but maybe not. But
may
anyway,
have. I
it is
can't
it is a circular shape, whether or not it has
Yeah,
corners.
yeah.
And then there's a big line right down the middle, and so each team has a side of the field they're trying to defend. Every time you hit the ball, you're charging it up with your color. So if you're blue, it charges up blue. If you're orange, it charges up orange. And if you can charge it up and make it hit their floor, it then weakens their floor. So think of their floor like armor. And if you can hit it that way, then the armor falls away and it opens up kind of just like a pit. Now, you can't fall in that pit with your car, but once the ball hits, that's a
Ball
goal.
can, yeah.
Yeah, so and it's a
I
really
loved it.
unique setup. I like it. If the ball isn't charged up and it bounces on the floor, I think it still has potential to kind of weaken the armor a little bit, but not nearly as much as if it's charged up with your color.
I never
weaken it quite a bit.
noticed if it's not your color and it's not if it's not your color, it does no damage.
I think that
So
might
if
be right.
it's
yeah.
just
And
if it's
what's
just
cool is you get
plain
points for
and it's
damage because
bouncing,
if
it's just bouncing.
if you hit a nice strong shot off the wall or the ceiling and it hits the ground really hard and they can't stop it, then you get points for damage as well, for damaging their floor.
Yeah,
and of
it's
course,
not just about goals; it's about
exactly.
damage and goals.
It's really fun. It adds a new layer of strategy, and once you score, then their floor resets, and you have to crack it open again. But yours stays the same. So every time one team scores, the other team has an immediate advantage. Whatever damage they've done remains until they score. So it's pretty fun. I've only played it for one evening. I don't know if many of you know our old buddy Gideon back from Rocket League days, but he and I jumped in there and played for a little bit, and he told me all his stories from, I don't know, New York and Florida, wherever it is he is. I love playing with that guy. I didn't really say much because he was talking the whole time, but we had a good time.
Yeah, you don't really have to say.
Yeah, it was good. Gideon's a good dude. So anyway, Drop Shot's pretty fun. I've actually got a couple friends who I think just got Rocket League, so I might be playing that a little more, especially during the move when I don't necessarily.
You never play with noobs. You don't play.
Yes,
with
I do.
noobs.
My
Noobs
kids.
are terrible.
By the way, speaking of my kids and noobs, I had an idea for a topic in the future. We should talk about what you do when your kids are really bad at video games. Like, do you let them win? Do you try to teach? Like, do you just let them do it on their own? So we should talk about that at some point.
That's a short show. No,
no,
Slap
don't help them at
tell
all.
them to get
Make them
good.
figure it out.
I forced my kids to play Dark Souls to get them in training to get good.
You and Sasan both, dude. It's hilarious to me when Sasan will put up videos of his little kid. I think it's Kieran or something like that. When he gets up there and he's like, yeah, he just took down his third boss or whatever.
Oh yeah,
It's fantastic.
that's crazy. I don't know how he's that good, but yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, I got back into Rocket League a little bit. I played a little bit of Witcher. Nothing really to add there. You guys got my thoughts on how excited I am to play it again, and again, still enjoying it. But I did decide, kind of what I've been doing, again, don't know if it'll change this week, is if I get a little burnout on Zelda, I go to The Witcher. If I get a little burnout on The Witcher, I go to Zelda. I know they're kind of similar as being open world games, but they still play differently, and there's totally different adventure. Like Zelda, I don't know how to describe it. I'm not playing it for the story. I'm aware there is a story there, and in fact, I am pushing through a little bit. I just finished the second dungeon tonight, or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
I
The
don't
Divine
know-
Beasts.
Yeah, I did the second beast. Which one did I do?
Because you can do them in
The
whatever order
camel?
you want. So.
I did the camel.
Okay.
So far I've done the elephant and the camel.
Yeah. So that most gamers, I think, the game kind of guides you to the elephant one first. I think.
Mm-hmm.
You
It
don't
does. It
you
kinda
don't have
pushes
to
you.
go there first, but it just is a natural progression as you go through the game and as it unlocks. It just seems like the next place to go. You don't have to go there first, but you can.
I don't know
So.
what all of them unlock after you beat them, but I can say I think the elephant is probably the best one to start off with because you're rewarded, and this I guess is technically a spoiler if you don't want to know anything about the game.
It's an
It's
ability
really not-
spoiler. So if you don't want to hear about an ability,
Yeah.
then skip ahead a few
Just
seconds.
skip. But you basically are rewarded with the ability to be revived immediately. So,
Right.
like, if you're fighting, and this happens a lot, and you die, and that elephant is generate it all the way, like full power, then it automatically heals you, and then it
Yeah.
empties out the elephant, and the elephant over time will
Yeah.
refill.
And it takes a while to
So,
recharge. It's not like
yeah,
it's not a major
it takes
cheat
a
or
while.
anything like that. It takes a long time to fill back up.
Yeah, and so in
yeah.
fact, when I was fighting the camel boss, I actually died, and he came in and rescued me, and I can continue to fight, and ended up winning with that second life. So it
Nice.
was definitely beneficiary.
Yeah, I
beneficial.
went elephant first, and I won't say what the other two are, but since you already mentioned the camel one, I did the camel one last, actually. So I saw that you posted a picture. It's one that I had just recently, probably 2 weeks ago, took. Same exact one when Link has to put on a certain outfit, and it's pretty hilarious. By the way, while you're wearing that outfit, go into your ingredients and hold 2 watermelons at the same time. It's pretty hilarious.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm enjoying it. So I actually today is probably the day I've gamed the most, and I put about probably 5 or 6 hours more into Zelda.
Nice.
So I'm
very cool.
I gotta be in the 50, 60 hour range.
Very cool. Nice. Is that handheld or TV mode mostly for you?
Last night I played a little bit of handheld because Ian had 2 of his buddies come over, so they took over the TV. So I just went handheld. And then today it was mainly TV, which I've noticed since making some adjustments to my lighting on my TV and stuff. Not only did I get The Witcher 3 to start looking even better, but I also fixed Zelda, so it looks real good.
Nice.
Especially in the new house, the lighting's real good in the new house. So
very nice.
I'm enjoying that. One thing I do want to add, and then we can move on and start doing our show because we got a pretty long show, or at least a lot of topics. I did play a lot of NBA Playgrounds. And
okay.
At first,
there's a new game. There you go.
Game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did play something new. So I was very angry at the game because I just couldn't figure it out. I knew it was going to be a little bit different than NBA Jam, and maybe I'm just remembering things wrong because I know Kent kind of called me out and he's like, the 2010 NBA Jam game played exactly like this. And I'm like, I don't remember. But I just remember an old school NBA Jam. If you wanted to dunk, you just had to have turbo, and then you hit the shoot button.
Yeah.
And if you're in range, he goes into a dunk.
And it felt right.
Yeah, and it worked.
Yeah.
And this, I tried to do that, but I think at first I was using all my turbo without realizing it. And then once I caught on to that, even still, I feel like it was inconsistent. Like, I have Chris Webber. He's my main dude. I have him maxed out right now. It's pretty cool. You level up your actual NBA players as well as leveling yourself up as a player. And Weber is maxed out, and his dunk is an 8, so he's a pretty high dunker. And there's just times where he'll have full turbo, and I'll drive the lane, and I'll do it, and he'll shoot a layup. And the game is real wacky because it's based off timing. So if you're shooting a 3, you can't just hit the button and hope the game hits it for you. You actually have to time it right, and it'll tell you. It'll say you shot it, you released it early, or you released it late, and then it's giving you that feedback, which is good, letting you know to correct it next time because that's why you missed it. Well, they do that with dunks, and I don't understand that because, like, one time I'll just tap the button and Weber will dunk. Then the next time when it's like a special ability to get 4 points for a dunk instead of 2, I'll tap the button and it'll say you released early and he'll miss it. I'm like, what? It's a dunk. What do you mean I'm releasing early? So there's some stuff I'm still confused on. I'm sure other people have mastered it, but I'm like, I don't get this. But I kept playing it. I've won a couple tournaments. I really like it. I love the fact that every time you do something, every time you level up, you get a pack of cards. And each pack has 5 cards, and you can get a bunch of random players. Like today, I got John Stockton.
And then they become usable in the game?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I
Nice.
unlocked Russell Westbrook, which he's labeled a legend. John Stockton's epic. So they have these labels.
Nice.
And so you can choose them. So like right
So
now,
there's a collector's aspect to this too, which I didn't know about.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah, and that's what I like. So I like the constantly getting cards. but it's also like you can like if I want to play with Chris Webber, who's a Golden State Warrior, which I don't really understand. Most of his real good seasons were in Sacramento, but anyways, he's on the Warriors. You can actually go and pick from another team. Like if you want to play with Carmelo Anthony and Chris Webber, you can put them together and they're your team. Which I don't know if they did that in the 2010 NBA Jam. Again, I don't remember that game real well, even though I own it. Um, I think if you picked the Celtics, you had to use Celtics players. This isn't like that. You just pick whoever you want as long as you've unlocked them. So that's pretty cool. Like if you want to play with Weber and then play with Russell Westbrook on a totally different team, you can do that, and I like that. So it's pretty cool. Again, it's got a learning curve. So if you're expecting to pay $20 and just pop it in and start dunking left and right, I don't think that's going to happen for most people. You're going to have to figure out the game. I don't think it's as broke as people were talking about. I don't know if you're aware of this, but they said there was some like 12-point shot. I've
heard about that.
happen. I've yet to see that happen.
Okay.
I have not gotten a 12-point shot, and the opponent has not done a 12-point
So
shot.
if it's a power up that's available, it's not common enough that you've seen it in the time playing it yet. So that's good.
And
at
I've
least.
put in probably 5 or 6 hours, if not
So
more.
the most you've seen is a 4-pointer, because you said you have a 4-point power up.
Well, so far the ones that are powering up is there's this one that's like a basketball with a lightning bolt. That basically means you can shoot it from anywhere. It's going to go in, but it's just the 2 or 3 points based off where you shoot it from.
Okay.
The other one is it's ×2 for dunks. So dunks are 2 points ×2, so it's 4-point dunks. And it's a timer, so it'll give you like 40 seconds to get as many dunks as you can in there. But I've noticed, kind of like Mario Kart, how it cheeses you. If you have that ×2 dunk, all of a sudden their defense is amazing, and they steal the ball from you every 5 seconds. It's like, I can't even get down there and dunk. Same thing when you have like the lightning ball that you can shoot it from pretty much anywhere. Soon as you touch it, they attack you and take it. And if they steal it from you, you lose the lightning ball. You don't get it back or anything. It's not on a timer.
Gotcha.
It's one possession. You lose it, it's gone. So
I mean, I kind of understand why they program AI that way, but on the other hand, it's just frustrating because it's like you weren't playing that strong before, and now that I got a power up, this brief power up, all of a sudden you bump up the difficulty notch. I do think that's a little strange. Even in stuff like Mario Kart, that happens there too, with a rubber band, you know. But yeah.
Well, and also Mario Kart's frustrating because, and you've played it more than me, but I've noticed every time I do the 4 races, by race 3 and 4, they're way better than they were in race 1 and 2. Like 1 and 2, the first couple races, even the third race is a little bit easier. That it's easy to place first, but once you get to that third and fourth race, they're constantly wrecking you, especially in the last lap, and it's so infuriating.
Which is especially frustrating when you're trying to get 3 stars, because you have to finish first in all 4 races to get all 3 stars, and
I think
that makes
I've gotten all 3 stars in a race yet. So.
That makes it really frustrating because you have to start over again. You have to go back and go races 1 through 4. Thankfully, it's a super fun game, and that's not a horrible thing, but you do feel like you're wasting time when you're trying to get the 3 stars. But anyway, first world problems. So you're playing NBA Playgrounds on the Switch, right?
Yeah, and I actually, if I loved it enough, I was going to buy it on the PS4 because I got $10 in rewards. So I was like, oh, let's just be $10 more, and that way my kids can play it and I can play it. But after getting a little frustrated, and I do enjoy it, but it's not worth buying a second time.
Okay.
So I'm just going to stick with the Switch, even though there's no online.
Yeah.
And
it's
it probably looks
the
a
first,
little bit better on the PS4.
Other than racing, it's the first sports game, right? That's on the Switch, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. It looks decent. It plays well.
Okay.
And I like the fact that I can take it on the go. Like, if we ever go to Orlando or anything like that, the Switch is something I'm going to take. Or, like, last night was a great example. The TV was taken, and so I just grabbed my Switch and continued playing Zelda, even though they were playing FIFA and Rocket League.
Yeah, by the time many of you listen to this on either Monday or Tuesday, I'll actually be traveling out to San Jose. I've got a work trip, and so the Switch will be used as it is in the commercials for the first time for me. You know, I'm going to prop it up on my airplane tray and all that stuff just to make sure that I experience what the commercial told me I would experience. But I'm hoping to get get some things knocked out in Zelda. Maybe even beat Zelda during that trip.
So
We'll
you're
see.
gonna do this while sitting next to strangers, or are you riding with people you know?
I am traveling with a coworker, but I don't think our seats are together. But either way, I don't care. Yeah, most people at work know that I'm into gaming.
No shame to his game.
No shame. At one point in my life, and I think we talked about this last year at some point, but as I'm getting older, it's just kind of like, you know what? There's nothing wrong with admitting that, hey, this is a hobby of mine. It's not like something embarrassing or harmful to other people. It's just this is my hobby, and so I've let go of that stigma a little bit more, especially as gaming has become more mainstream. But again, another podcast topic completely.
Well, I thought it was funny, like when the boys came over last night, they walked in the house and they're like, Ian and Eli are showing them all the stuff, and they're like, and one of them said, he's like, I've never seen so many systems in my life. This is so cool. And so I started talking to them, and as they started setting up to play, and I was like, Miss Megan, that's my wife, in case people don't know. Miss Megan's embarrassed that you guys are getting to see how big of a nerd I am. She hates all my gaming stuff. In fact, that my desk with all the Witcher and Zelda and Horizon, all that stuff, she's like, you need to get that off. If people come over, I'm like, no, that's my desk. Don't care.
Yep. Yeah, I've got my Chrono Trigger mug proudly displayed on my desk at work, so people come over to ask questions, and I always see them kind of glance at it. I've got that and a couple Star Wars things up around a monitor that I use to kind of track some traffic stuff. And so yeah, it's I don't mind it. I don't mind sharing my nerdiness with people because everyone's nerds about something. It's just not everyone's into video games. Whatever. We digress. Let's talk about some news, since neither one of us have played the biggest recent release in Prey, but thank you for sharing about NBA Playgrounds. I know there's going to be listeners who are wondering about Playgrounds. It sounds like it sounds like a soft recommendation, not necessarily everyone should go buy it, but maybe a soft recommendation.
If you were a fan of NBA Jam, you'll find the good in this game.
Okay,
I think
that's
the
fair to say.
reviews so far are pretty accurate, and they're putting it at about a 7 or so, and I think that's pretty accurate.
Well, let's talk about a few news leaks that have come out from Ubisoft. The first one, actually, we'll get to that one second. So the first one is one that I don't know has had much confirmation or much support, and that is a rumor that I've only seen mentioned a few times about Far Cry 5 being a Western setting, kind of like a 19th century, so the 1800s Western setting. I don't know if that's true. I'm not sure how much weight that rumor has compared to the next one we'll talk about. What do you think if that's the case?
I mean, I'd be for it. I do like Westerns. My initial reaction was like, I mean, if you're going to do it early 2018 like they did Primal, you could probably get away with it. But if this is like one of their fall releases, like if they're going to release Assassin's Creed in October and then they're like, November, get Far Cry 5, you're pretty much going up against Red Dead.
I was
sure
just
Red
going to
Dead's
say that.
probably a November release.
Yep.
And so that would be really dumb. But as far as just critiquing it as far as a game and the idea of it, better than Primal. I would rather have a Western than a caveman game.
Well, yeah, there's also your firearms will be back.
But
So. I know you like your guns. So
I want my guns. So.
Yeah. I think it's a great setting idea. And you said exactly what I was thinking. I think it should be no sooner than spring of 2018. I guess possibly late winter, like January, February 2018. But I think they'd be smart to, if they're going to do a Far Cry 5, and it's going to be anything close to what's happening in either the Assassin's Creed game that might be coming out or Red Dead Redemption 2, they'd be smart to move it to the springtime, in my opinion. So let this be a March game or something, and let it dominate that month.
And I think they could also get away with it too if Ubisoft, whatever their name is, they start changing their structure of their games. Like, people have figured it out, and for me personally, they went from being one of my favorite developers to now I'm not really that excited about their games. Now, Assassin's Creed, I'll be excited about because I love Syndicate and I love the franchise. But other than that, they're not releasing anything that I get really excited for anymore because I'm like kind of over everything that you do because you have the same system, same setup, and I really need something else.
Yeah.
I need more.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah. So the other rumor, of course, being a little more substantiated in terms of seems to have more support behind it, and that is Assassin's Creed, possibly something called Assassin's Creed Origins. Maybe that was a code name for it. Who knows? Some have also called it Empire. Basically, Assassin's Creed Egypt is what people are talking about, and that had a screenshot leaked. And I forget exactly where that originated from. Sorry about that. But anyway, it's been well circulated and talked about from many big outlets. And in some cases, it seems to be confirmed from multiple sources that this is going to be the next Assassin's Creed game. The reason they're saying Egypt is because on the screenshot, there was a mission detail up in the corner that mentioned the name of a queen from Egypt. And it also had some sort of objective as being to assassinate the crocodile. So sounds like a game set in Egypt to me. I'm cool with that. That sounds great to me. I mean, I know I've heard some people express concern about, Assassin's Creed's all about, climbing and being up on buildings and a lot of different verticality to that game. And I think it's still possible in a setting like Egypt. Like, people think about Egypt and they think it was just huts and pyramids, and that's just not true. I mean, they had their own version of cities as well. So there's nothing to worry about there. I mean, Assassin's Creed 4 didn't really have massive cities, but they had enough, and there was enough buildings to climb, and you could climb up the masts of ships. There's plenty of ways they can work around that and give you some fun environmental things to do there. So I'm not really worried about that part of it. I'm just excited for Assassin's Creed to come back. It's been a while. It's been a while since the last Assassin's Creed game.
I think they are trying to get away from climbing. I'm not saying that's why they picked this or anything like that. But like when you think about it with Syndicate, I think and this is just one of the many things that they did well with Syndicate, because they really did do a good job with that game. But one of the coolest features was your ability to basically shoot up buildings and shoot across things, and it was more instantaneous. It was quicker. Your movement around cities and places was definitely faster in Syndicate than any other Assassin's Creed game. And so I think when you play AC Syndicate and you experience that, to then go back and if they did this and go back and have to slowly climb up walls and all this stuff, which is the thing that they get critiqued for the most, because for instance, I know on Unity, one of the few things that really frustrated me was I shouldn't say Unity because they kind of fixed it, but some of the older AC games is like if you're trying to go through a window, you would go from the bottom of the window and you jump up over it.
Right.
I'm like, no, I wanted to go in it. Right. So Unity actually, I think, fixed it because it made it a different button. But in the past games, they didn't. So, they've always had issues with controls, like when you want to go up, when you want to go down, when you want to go sideways, and all that stuff. And they kind of eliminated that with Syndicate. And it was smoother overall anyways. But
yeah, Syndicate I thought was the prettiest game. It had the most, in my opinion, entertaining combat. You talked about how you think they're kind of backing off on the traversal. I actually think they reintroduced some traversal stuff with Syndicate, with the grapple hook and all that kind of stuff.
That's what I'm saying. They made it faster.
Made it. Yeah, you're right.
So my point
is
that in the new game, you can't go back to, like, for instance, they were able to put that in there because it was in London. This is going to be an older game, so they might have more flat surfaces just for the simple fact that they know a lot of the players are not going to want to go back to the slow climbing route when they're like, Syndicate, I was able to fly up buildings and do all this stuff because it was set, in more of a modern time where they could get away with that.
Yeah, so all the details there remain to be seen, but a lot of cool stories you can tell back in that time period with the Empire of Egypt there. So I'm interested to see what they do in that setting. I think the last time we were in that setting was the original Assassin's Creed, right? With Altair being kind of from the Middle East there, and they were in Jerusalem. And
well, if it is called Origins, are we going to play as Altair?
Who knows? Or at least, is he going to be in the game? Will he be a character in the game? That you interact with. Because
I heard it was like a prequel. They were rumoring it was a prequel.
So maybe a young Altair is part of that story. That'd be cool if they somehow incorporated him. Maybe had a new hero or heroine. Who knows if it's going to be a man or a woman, but a new hero, and then maybe Altair is a character there that they introduce at some point. Who knows? That'd be cool. That would be cool. So we'll find out more, I assume, at E3. I can't imagine we'll get through E3 without some sort of announcement from Ubisoft about one or both of these
It'll
major
probably be on
franchises.
Microsoft's stage, and then they'll introduce the game there, and then probably talk about it in their own show more.
We
in
haven't
depth.
heard anything from either of these franchises in over a year. Because we had Far Cry Primal was the last of either of these franchises. And other than the Assassin's Creed movie, there's been nothing from either
Well, they
of these franchises.
re-released the Ezio games.
The
But
Ezio
other
games,
than
right?
that, yeah, they're
Yep.
not. They took. This will be. I'm sure it's going to release late 2017. So they've basically taken a 2-year break, which isn't very long, but it is for them, especially since they are kind of like Call of Duty, and they switch from like one team works on one game while another team's working on Assassin's Creed as well. That team releases it, and then the other team releases it the next year. So they all get like 2 or 3 years to create one game, but they keep releasing Assassin's Creed games every year. So this should give them probably about 3 to 4 years of time to work on this, to really reboot it and work it out.
Yep, and we'll talk more in our predictions as we get closer to E3, what we think that's going to look like. But I am excited for that franchise to return. Another piece of news this week is to do with NBA 2K18. This isn't a rumor. This is an official announcement. So every year with with the 2K games, they have special editions. And they usually focus on either a player or something special, maybe something from the past. And this time, it's all about Shaq. Shaquille O'Neal, of course, played for several teams and won several championships with those different teams. And so they are going to focus their Legend Edition on their cover, and that's going to be Shaq, including some Shaq memorabilia and digital items. So they say if you buy the Legend Edition, you get a Shaq poster, stickers, in-game currency items, among other things. The Legend Edition Gold also includes a lenticular print and more virtual currency. And then, of course, they've released a full list of all the items you can get with these editions. So I know you're a 2K guy. Does having a specific player from not even that long ago, from the recent past, from the NBA featured and all this extra memorabilia, does that intrigue you at all as a person who likes these games? Or are you more like, no, just give me the game?
No, they keep picking like guys I literally hate. Like I hated Kobe, I hate Shaq. So until they get somebody on there, I don't like Jordan either. I did like Larry Bird, but Larry Bird I don't think was on it by himself. I think he had his own cover, but he also had to split it with like 3 or 4 other legends. You could just pick Larry Bird over them.
So let me get this straight. You didn't like Kobe or Shaq or Jordan, but you liked Larry Bird. What is it about Larry Bird that's different from those 3 guys? What is it?
Dang, white power.
Where's Al when you need him? Let's get Al in here.
Yep. So only root for white people. John Stockton. By the way, just in case people, even though I keep saying his name, I really hated John Stockton, but whatever. I hated the Jazz. So no, personally, they're picking players I don't care about, so I don't care. Of course, they're picking guys that were very popular. They played in big cities. You got Shaq, who played in Orlando, Miami, LA. So he's gonna have fans all over the place. Kobe played in LA his whole career. Jordan's probably the most popular NBA player ever. So they're playing it safe with the guys they're picking right now. But I would like to see more guys from the last 15, 20 years. But I would like to see somebody I actually care about. That would be great.
Yeah.
But we'll
Cool.
see.
All right. So that's happening. Another game that is actually, it's been out for a little while and it has some DLC on the way, is Mafia 3. We've talked about this one in our 2016 Game of the Year discussion. We talked about it even recently as we revisited that list. It's a game that we enjoyed. I think you liked it a little more than I did, but we both really liked it. This is getting some DLC that drops on May 30th, so that's just in a couple weeks here. And it's all about John Donovan. So if you don't remember, and by the way, if you haven't played it, this isn't a major spoiler, okay? I'm not going to give you any major story points from Mafia 3. But John Donovan is a friend of Lincoln Clay. So he's basically one of your biggest supporters and confidants throughout that entire game. And I won't tell you, there's some things that happen at the end that are interesting and awesome, but I'll just leave it at that. So this DLC is all about him. It's called Stones Unturned. And the game senior writer says this about it. It's going to feel like a great buddy action movie. He's there with you every step of the way, helping unfold a mystery brewing in New Bordeaux, which, by the way, is their fictional universe version of New Orleans. As Donovan's past catches up with him, you're fighting side by side, or in some cases, firing a huge mounted turret from the back of a truck while he's doing the driving. So it sounds like it's going to be really cool. There's some story stuff, some new styles of missions, and whereas in the main game, Donovan was much more of a mission or quest giver. He was rarely with you as the action was going down. It sounds like this time it's much more of they keep describing it as a buddy action movie, where it's these two guys working together to do the fighting and to do the sneaking around and take the bad guys down. So sounds kind of interesting. I like both of those characters. Don't know that I'll grab it right away, but this is DLC that kind of has me interested because I really did like his character quite a bit.
Yeah, I will probably. I'll probably wait for I don't think they'll have a game of the year, but they'll have some type of game release of Mafia 3 with all the content. I'll probably do that and buy it on the PS4. I have it on the Xbox One, but I didn't actually play the game on the Xbox One. So I would like to have all the extra content in the game on PS4 since that's where I played it. But yeah, nice. I'll do that when it's cheap.
Cool. Well, speaking of money, Overwatch has now become a billion-dollar game when you look at microtransactions combined with game sales. It is Activision's 8th billion-dollar title, including games from franchises like Call of Duty, Guitar Hero, World of Warcraft. So it's in good company with incredibly popular games. And so Overwatch, again, it's a game from last year that I totally skipped, and it wasn't an intentional, I don't want to play this. It was more of, I don't have a huge amount of interest in this. But this game won a ton of awards. It even won some overall game of the year from several outlets. And I know many of our listeners really, really like it. So that's fantastic. Congratulations to them. It sounds like that community is still going strong. That's awesome. $1 billion. That's huge.
It's crazy.
It's huge.
It's
All
huge.
All right, moving on. There's a game called Thumper that last year was talked about quite a bit as at least in terms of like indie or smaller style games, a favorite of many people. It's coming to the Switch, and I just wanted to point it out because it's coming out to the Switch this week. I believe it's coming out on Thursday. I think the 18th is a Thursday. So they describe it as a rhythm violence game. So it's a rhythm game, but apparently it's got quite a bit of style and I guess even violence. It's from last year. So there you go. If you're a Switch owner looking for something a little bit unique, go try Thumper.
Go buy NBA Playground.
Or go play NBA Playgrounds. Sure, why not? Or just keep playing Zelda. That game has enough for the rest of your life. Yeah, you don't need anything
just
else.
Keep going.
All right, and the last bit of news that we're going to talk about, and this is our topic of the week also, is the Video Game Hall of Fame. So the news came out recently that of the 12 games that were nominated for the class of 2017, 4 games were inducted. Now, technically it's 5 games, but it depends on which way you look at it. Technically it's 4, technically it's 5, because it includes a Pokemon game, a Red and Green, which in the U.S. was Red and Blue. So I consider it 4 games because I consider those the same games with just slightly different versions. So 4 games were inducted. That's Donkey Kong, the original arcade Donkey Kong, old school. Halo Combat Evolved, Pokemon Red and Green, or Blue if you're from the States, and Street Fighter 2. Now, when you think about things like Halo Combat Evolved or Pokemon Red and Green and Street Fighter 2, there's been re-releases of these, whether they're remastered editions or they're upgraded somehow. Like with Street Fighter, you've got Turbo and Champion and Ultra. I think the idea is the core game itself is being inducted into the Hall of Fame. I highly doubt it's going to be one of those things where 10 years down the road, they're now inducting Street Fighter 2 Turbo. I think it's the Street Fighter 2 game is in the Hall of Fame. And same thing with Halo Combat Evolved. They've released like the Master Chief Collection, things like that. No, it's Halo is in the Hall of Fame. Now, that being said, I think something like a Halo 3 or even Halo 2, those things could probably get in there at some point in the future. But for now, it's these 4. Let me just mention really quickly the 8 that were left out. They were nominated but left out this year. So Final Fantasy VII, Windows Solitaire, we'll talk about that in a second, Mortal Kombat, Myst, Portal, Resident Evil, Tomb Raider, and Wii Sports. So these are all, at best, going to be second ballot Hall of Famers next year if they happen to get in. So there you go. There's your list of the 4 that were inducted. We're going to talk in just a second about what games we would like to see added to the Hall of Fame. But before we get there, why don't you tell me what you think about the 4 that were inducted, and do you think there were any that were left out that probably deserved a spot above one of these 4?
How is Windows Solitaire not a lock? I mean, come on. Come on.
Didn't your wife text you about it?
Yes.
Tell us what she said.
Yeah, so that text that she was calling us, a gay fathers group or whatever, she also was saying that she was basically asking me, "Oh man, did you hear Windows Solitaire got left out of the Hall of Fame? Are you and Tim upset about this? Are you guys gonna talk about it?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh." I did play a lot of Solitaire.
So did I. Sure.
But I'm actually surprised. I don't know, it's weird. It's one of those it's a game, but it's actually a card game, so I don't understand what the Windows version of it, like I don't understand why that would be special when it was actually originally a card game. Because if you look at the games that got nominated, they're pretty much, I won't say they're the best versions of the franchise, but they're like a key game. Like Donkey Kong kind of started it all. Like Donkey Kong's like one of the major releases where it really started. And then, you in the original Donkey Kong, Mario was in it, correct?
Yeah, even though he wasn't called Mario, but yes.
Yes. But Mario was basically in it, so that was kind of your introduction to Mario. And Halo Combat Evolved, that was your first console, legit first-person shooter, multiplayer shooter. Pokemon Red and Green, don't know anything about that. You could speak for that. Street Fighter 2 was the very first major arcade fighting game hit. And I think those are the reasons, at least those 3 games got elected, is because they had some impact. It isn't just about well, is the game good or not? Yeah, they're good, but I wouldn't say they're the greatest of all time. I think they're going in there because they had some type of significant impact. So I think they did all right, but I would have picked, I'll tell you right now, I would have left
of the 8 that were left off.
I would have left off all of those except I would have kept Halo, Final Fantasy VII, Mortal Kombat, and Resident Evil.
Yeah, I knew you'd put RE in there. Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, it's interesting that you brought that up because now you got me thinking: what makes a game Hall of Fame worthy, as opposed to, best games of all time? Is there a difference? What is that difference? And so that's an interesting discussion too. I do think there's a lot of crossover in deciding what games go in the Hall of Fame, what games are the best ever. But I think when you look at Hall of Fame, you're including a little more of the, like you just described really well, a little more of the what did they start? Did they change the way we looked at the medium? Did they change a franchise? Did they launch something special? And I think these 4 that were inducted, definitely did that. Like you just mentioned, Donkey Kong essentially created the platformer as we know it in terms of scrolling back and forth. You're dodging obstacles, and then you're going up the ladder and continuing and trying to get to the end of a level, even though it was vertical. And then, of course, Mario, which we'll talk about in a minute, is already in the Hall of Fame. So yeah, this is, like you said, the precursor to all of that. Halo, like you mentioned, I don't say much more about it. It's the best first-person shooter since GoldenEye, which is a big deal because GoldenEye 64 set that standard. I mean, and that's by the way, I'm leaving out things like Quake and some of the PC stuff that was really popular for certain gamers, but in terms of really mainstream, kind of taking this to the mainstream, to everyone, Halo is the kind of game that even people who don't play games, they've heard of it. They know what Halo is. When you say you're going to go play Halo, they've heard of it. So there's something about that that's special, that deserves to be recognized. Totally agree with that induction as well. Pokemon Red and Blue, or Red and Green, it introduced one of the biggest phenomenons the world's ever seen in terms of video games. Took the world by storm and hasn't slowed down since. That's incredible. 20 plus years of hit after hit after hit.
So it was the first Pokemon game?
It was. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
See,
so that's
if
why.
I would have known that, then that would be why it's significant. So
yeah, I almost think they should just call it Pokemon and then kind of clarify like the first one, red/green, blue, yellow. Like those are the kind of the first wave. Those were all the different versions of that first wave. And then Street Fighter 2 took a game that was mediocre at best. Street Fighter was not a great game, and Street Fighter 2 was a fantastic game. I don't know if you guys ever played Street Fighter 1, but it is not good. But Street Fighter 2, of course, had memorable characters, a really fun, a simple and fun, and yet rewarding style of gameplay. Wasn't as complicated as some of the other fighters that were out there, and like Derek said, became the first major hit. So I think these are all deserving. I don't know that I would put all 4 of these in over games. Like I don't even like Myst that much, but something like Myst to me strikes me as a Hall of Fame game. You know, Final Fantasy VII needs to be in the Hall of Fame. It took a popular franchise and even a popular genre, and it made it accessible to an entire new generation of gamers, and people in North America finally got onto the RPG train, and they were popular before, but Final Fantasy VII just launched it. So I'm not sure that I would have put these 4 in necessarily over the 8 that were left out, but I have every confidence that these 8 that were left out will be added at some point in the near future. So the ones that I wouldn't necessarily fight for would be like Solitaire, like Wii Sports. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The other ones I think are very, very deserving. I do think that it's funny you mentioned Solitaire. I do think it's worth mentioning as an impactful game. It took people who maybe were at a job or had a computer for work-related purposes or for paying taxes, and maybe it opened the door to some kind of video game interaction that they didn't have before, maybe. But it wasn't like Tetris. So Tetris did the same thing, a very simple game, a puzzle game that everyone who played games or not enjoyed, but it was introduced in the video game medium. Like you said, Solitaire is a card game, and it was simply an easier way to play Solitaire. Solitaire's been around for a long time, so I'm not sure that deserves a spot in the video game Hall of Fame. Maybe in the overall game Hall of Fame, if that's a thing, for card games and everything, but I wouldn't put it in personally for video games. But all right, so let's talk a little bit about what 3 games we would nominate. We're going to close with this. What 3 games would we nominate to put in the Hall of Fame? Let's say they come to us and say, listen, you guys over at Fathers of the Grind are really smart. Your opinions are amazing. You never get anything wrong. We want you to nominate the next wave of Hall of Fame inductees for 2018. So let's talk about let me list the ones that are currently in the Hall of Fame. So we can't nominate these. Obviously, that wouldn't make sense. And then we'll each pick 3. I listed a ton because I'm not really sure yet, but we'll get to it. But here's the games that are currently in the Hall of Fame. Donkey Kong, Doom, the original, by the way, Grand Theft Auto 3, Halo Combat Evolved, The Legend of Zelda, The Oregon Trail, Pac-Man, Pokemon Red and Green, Pong, The Sims, Sonic the Hedgehog, Space Invaders, Street Fighter 2, Super Mario Bros., Tetris, and World of Warcraft. So mostly older games with a few modern games like World of Warcraft thrown in there. Even GTA 3, I guess you could consider, and Halo as more modern games. But most of these are kind of the classics that you'd expect to see in there. The Sims is a little bit of an interesting inclusion, although you could make an argument that many games with any kind of sim style gameplay all came from that. Even things like Persona were influenced by The Sims. So I guess that kind of makes sense. But now we get a chance to nominate. So whether we want to go, pick out of some of the 8 that were left out this past time, or whether we want to pick a game that wasn't mentioned yet at all, what 3 Hall of Fame games would we induct? And we'll just take turns doing this.
All right.
Have you had a chance to think about this at all?
Yeah, I wrote down 3.
Okay. So why don't, since I've been talking a lot, why don't you go first and then give me kind of your elevator pitch for why your pick should be in there?
Well, I originally felt like Mortal Kombat should be in there, and for significant reasons for what Mortal Kombat did. Mortal Kombat was very controversial, in case people don't know. It was the first really bloody, gory game to hit the arcades and like the Super NES and Sega Genesis. It was all over the news. I mean, even our government and politics got involved with it. That being said, Mortal Kombat overall is like average at best game. Mortal Kombat 2 is where they got really good. They improved not only the fighting, but they almost doubled the amount of characters. They had way better characters. Kind of like that jump from Street Fighter to Street Fighter 2. And I'm not saying Mortal Kombat is a complete trash game. It's not. But it was very, very bare bones. The only reason why it was popular is because you rip people's heads off and burn them alive. Mortal Kombat 2 is where they actually made a good fighter, or a decent fighter, I should say. The fighting mechanics were decent, but the reason I loved the game was, like I said, they had a lot of interesting characters. They started building a story in a world or realms that I started personally caring about. They doubled the fatality amounts. They added friendships and babyalities. I mean, they just loaded this game
Yeah, that's
down.
right. Babalities.
Yeah, they loaded this game down with so many secrets that I remember.
Yeah.
You got to remember, this is, I don't know if it's pre-internet or pre. It's definitely pre us having access to internet where we, could check this stuff. But I remember because there were so many secrets in that game that all my friends and I started believing that there was nudalities, and we wanted to figure out how to get
Oh my God.
Sonya topless because we'd heard that was a thing. Although we were
You
scared.
gotta see the thingies.
Yeah, we gotta get her top off. So, anyways, Mortal Kombat 2 is. I won't say it's the best Mortal Kombat game ever because I do think Mortal Kombat 9 might be the best, but it's a classic in my opinion. They really nailed everything. They really, for me personally, that was the game that really hooked me with secrets and unlocking things and discovering things, and so it's one of my favorites. It's a classic.
Nice. Okay. It'd be hard to argue against. I mean, Mortal Kombat 2 certainly built off of the success of something like Street Fighter 2, and it opened that up to an even different audience and provided it an alternative version of what was already a great game. And it really had its own unique ripples in it that I never got into, but I've never talked to anyone who loves Mortal Kombat 2 who doesn't still think of it as one of their favorite games ever. So.
Yeah.
That'd be a worthy addition. This is not easy. I mean, there's so many games that I think are worthy. My gut is to throw in Super Mario 64, but I think because they already have Super Mario Bros. At this point, since there's only like 12 games in the Hall of Fame, I feel like a wider variety of franchises need to be represented. So I would throw in Mario 64 if Super Mario Brothers wasn't already there. I actually think, this is crazy, I actually think Mario 64 is more deserving than the original Nintendo Mario being in the Hall of Fame. That's just my personal opinion. I think it's more deserving of being in the Hall of Fame. They both deserve to be in there. I would just put that one in there first. So, that being said, let me take a step back, and I'm going to say Mike Tyson's Punch-Out should be in the Hall of Fame. Again, it's one of those games that has a strange combination of sports, but it's also really like a rhythm game where you got to watch for patterns and hit things in the right order and look for weaknesses in each enemy. It's not easy at all. And each enemy has a ton of personality. It's one of those games that it's very simple and it's very repetitive, and yet you could pour hours and hours and hours into it. Fun and easy to play, at least for the first few fighters. Tough as balls to master. I mean, some of those enemies, especially at the end, are so tough. And so anyway, I think Punch-Out is very deserving of a spot in the Hall of Fame. That's my first inductee.
No issues with that. It's a good game. My second one is a little bit more current. It's Zelda Breath of the Wild.
What?
Yeah, I know.
What?
I know people are gonna think I'm stupid or whatever, or riding like some emotional roller coaster, but I'm honestly picking this, and I want people to hear me out. I'm picking this objectively because when I do my year-end game of the year picks, Zelda's not a lock because there are things for me as a gamer personally that it does still that I just don't like in Zelda games. But overall, objectively, I want to say this might be one of the greatest games ever created. And I think I kind of said that before, and I still stand by that 50, 60 hours into this game. Again, not as far as most people that I know who've played it. They're over 100 hours. But the main reason I say this is worthy, I'm not saying it needs to be voted in now, I'm just saying it's my pick, is it took the open world, like something like The Witcher 3. Like I've been playing The Witcher 3 more like how I'm playing Zelda Breath of the Wild, and I'm seeing how amazing The Witcher is as well. But even still, Zelda exceeds a game like The Witcher. There is no boundaries. there's so many smart things. Like part of I'm going all over the place, but let me start with one thing that really sticks out,
Okay.
and that is the biggest thing is there are no boundaries, but there are boundaries. And what I mean by that is they literally give you this open world and they say, go wherever, like you were talking about earlier, go fight whoever you want to fight. Go to whatever dungeon you want to go to. Ignore the dungeon if you want to. But then there's certain areas that I've been discovering, like I just unlocked all the towers, but not all towers were equal. There were some towers that were very difficult to get to, and it was because, like I said, there are no boundaries, but there are boundaries, and that is I got to one area that was very high up, and it was filled with snow, and it was extremely cold. Well, I didn't have anything. I didn't even have any warm meals, nothing. And so the entire time I'm running through this area, because I was determined to get this tower, I had to constantly heal myself with just
Yep.
regular meals because the cold was freezing Link and he was losing his health. So there's that, and then there was other areas. There's hot areas where the temperature rises, and if you don't have a correct outfit or something certain that you wear, you will burn to death. So there's just those type of things where they're like, hey, it's open, but it's not really open unless you prep yourself. And so it's
Yep.
kind of realistic in that sense. Like if I was going out on an adventure, there are going to be places maybe in real life that I'd want to explore, but I would have to prepare myself to do it. And that's kind of what Zelda does for me. Zelda is this game that's unrealistic while being realistic, and it's boundless while having boundaries, and it makes you think and it makes you explore, and I appreciate it for it. I appreciate the intelligence of the game. It's
Yeah.
the same thing I say about like Dark Souls and all those. I appreciate the intelligence of the game, the way they're designed, the way they create these worlds and these levels that make me go, wow, I can't believe you thought of that. Even
Yeah.
I, who's critiquing games all the time, didn't think of that. So,
Yeah.
anyways, that to me, that one's a no-brainer for a future pick. But if like you said, somebody came
Yeah.
up to me and said,
They're letting you pick. So
"Yeah, what
Yeah.
do you want right now?"
Yeah.
That's my second pick.
that's an intriguing one because it is so recent. The game has just now been out for over 2 months, and I can't really find a lot of reasons to argue against that pick. Although there's part of me that goes, "Hey, it hasn't been around for long enough." But I think time will prove everything you just said about it to be correct in terms of the impact it's going to have on future open world games, future action RPGs. I feel like Breath of the Wild is going to set a tone for a genre in a way that maybe not quite as drastically as Mario 64 did in terms of opening up 2D to 3D, but close to it, where we're going to see there's a page that's been turned for open world any kind of games that involve exploration.
To help redesign open world games. I
think
think
it will
it's
too.
going to be a game that like a Ubisoft or an EA, these guys, they're playing it and they're going to play it and go, we don't do that.
Yep.
This is
That's
crazy.
a bold pick, but I like it. It's a bold pick, but I like it. My second pick is a personal favorite, but I think it also deserves to be in there as one of the greatest RPGs of all time, and that is Chrono Trigger. It's a game that anyone who hasn't played it now, if they pick it up and play it, they can still see the quality and still enjoy it the same way that someone back in 1995 enjoyed it. This game is something special. They tried to recreate some of that magic with I Am Setsuna and just couldn't do it. It kind of proves to me that even with a lot of the same people working on it, they just can't recapture that same magic. Many games have tried to copy what Chrono Trigger does, and they just can't do it. Even the spiritual successor, Chrono Cross, couldn't quite capture the magic of Chrono Trigger. It's a special game that told a story and introduced characters in a way that very few games have done in the same way since. It's a blast to play. It's very epic. It's funny. It's heartwarming. This game deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, if for no other reason that I think anyone who enjoys video games could pick up this game and get a ton out of it. And it really set the stage, I think, set a standard for RPGs moving forward. So I would put Chrono Trigger in the Hall of Fame, for sure.
All right.
It's my second pick. And what's your third entry for 2018?
All right, my third and
Class.
final one is, even though it's not my favorite in the franchise or the series, it's still to me the most worthy, and that would be BioShock.
BioShock.
Um,
Nice.
Not only did it play well, and then obviously introduce us into an amazing world that is Rapture. For me, the main reason why I would pick this over maybe another shooter or something like that, like I don't know, is Doom in the Hall of Fame
The
already?
original Doom's already in there, yeah.
Okay, so they already took care of that. But the reason I would personally pick it over like a Doom or even a Halo or something like that is because to me this was and I could be wrong, and I apologize if I am wrong, but this was the first person shooter game that I played that had an amazing story, like a very deep story,
Yeah.
with great characters. It had great story. It had two major twists. It had everything that I would personally want in a game, much less a first-person shooter game. Which anybody knows me knows I prefer third person. I prefer an action adventure. I prefer a lot of things over first-person shooters. But the BioShock franchise and that game in particular, they really nailed creating a story-driven first-person shooter. So I pick BioShock.
Good pick. I think that's actually a great pick. BioShock 100% deserves to be in the Hall of Fame at some point. I don't know when it'll be nominated or inducted, but I don't see how they can avoid it. That whole series is great, and you're right. The first BioShock, although I think the other games had different things they improved on, the first BioShock was it was eye-popping visually, and it had a very surreal movie quality story. Totally agree with that pick. It's a good one. Yeah, so I'm kind of torn on my final pick. I was looking at a few things. I mean, as I think I've mentioned before on the show, I used to be much bigger into PC gaming than I am now. Now it's mainly out of just actually resources, like what I have available to me. But I used to love real-time strategy games. And looking through the list, I'm not seeing, unless I'm missing something, I'm not seeing that genre represented. And it's such a major genre that I know that if you're going to look historically, something like Dune 2, which I barely played but know a lot about, probably should be in there. But since that personally isn't one that I could speak to, I can't pick it. So I'm going to put Command and Conquer in there, even though I think it was the follow-up. It was after games like Dune 2, maybe others. But I think Command and Conquer deserves to be in the Hall of Fame because it took a very simple concept. You got two different sides in this battle, and it made it incredibly fun. Your resource building, you get to pick which troops to develop and how do you want to build your squads and how you want to attack and flank them, how you want to either build up your defenses or right away go on the offensive and send out these platoons to start attacking. I, as a young man, really loved Command & Conquer, and it really got me into the RTS genre for years to come after that. Games like StarCraft, which maybe also is deserving of a future induction. But also, and I think I've talked about this before, Dawn of War, I think that's a fantastic RTS game as well. And all of these were built, and Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3, these were all built off of, in my opinion, something like Command & Conquer, which took the RTS genre to the next level. I think it's deserving. I think it had some cool voice things they integrated in there. And it's one of those games that you could get sucked into and not realize that you've been playing for 6 straight hours because you're just so sucked into the strategy and the action. So Command & Conquer, I think, deserves a spot. That's not to say, even though Derek and I didn't pick any of these 8, that's not to say that the 8 that were nominated but skipped over this time don't deserve it. You even yourself replaced Mortal Kombat with Mortal Kombat 2. I think Portal 2 deserve consideration in the future. Maybe not before games like Resident Evil or Tomb Raider or Final Fantasy VII. Those are all fairly deserving as well. I think Wii Sports, I mean, that's a tough one because, yes, it opened the door to gaming to a lot of people, but would I really put it in the Hall of Fame? Probably not yet. Maybe down the road. I can see why people want to recognize Wii Sports. It is special. But it also just happened to be the pack-in game for this phenomenon of a system. And maybe this system was a phenomenon because of Wii Sports. So anyway, that being said, I like the 6 that we picked for our Hall of Fame. Not that they're going to ask us, but you never know.
I'm pretty sure they're not going to ask us.
Probably not. All right, well, that does it for episode 71. And yeah, so those are our picks for the Hall of Fame. Here's hoping that in the next couple weeks we actually have time to play some newer stuff so we can talk about newer release games. But we're also coming up on E3 pretty soon, and so we'll be talking about some of our favorite past E3 moments, and then, of course, we'll make our E3 predictions. We've got some special guests that I'm hoping to have on sometime in the next 3 or 4 weeks as well to chat with us too. So some cool things coming up. But for now, thanks for listening. Derek, thanks for taking time. I'll talk to you guys later.
All right.
Who is your daddy? I am the father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things here.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?